Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you guys are at. Hope you're having a fantastic day. It's SoulSaint here, and we got the new Fragment event calendar for Timit the Fool coming out. This one seems to be a lot more of an easier one. I think that's pretty much the general consensus for everybody that's been looking at it so far. But I want to do a quick breakdown. This one's going to be kind of a little bit more simple because of how the events and the tournaments are overlapping. It's pretty straightforward, but I want to make sure I give you guys the due diligence of just double checking and just kind of giving some feedback based on what I got going on, okay? So, with that being said, let's break down into it. So we are, as of right now, in October 26th. So Spider Tournament and the Dungeon Diver event is live. That's a good overlap where you can get like a lot of points. It's actually fairly easy to get like quick Dungeon Diver points using Spider Tournament. So this is very easy. With that being said, though, I would be very, very diligent about using your resources very wisely. So spread it out. Don't go in like spurts of immediately in one, then two. You know, like just trying to knock it all out in one go. We do have another overlap when it comes to the Dungeon Diver event, and that's with Dragon Tournament, which is going to be on Sunday. I think that like if you could go at a decent pace for like the first 2 days of the Spider Tournament. Take your time. Get your points as much as you can. Maybe even finish the Spider Tournament. That's perfectly fine. But go at a pace that's reasonable. I wouldn't be blowing a lot of like refills if you have them in your barrel right now or in your storage. I would hold off on those and just like take your time. Go at a decent pace. Maybe use daily refill, regenerative energy while you focus on other stuff, you know? This one seems like it's not going to be too bad. The Dungeon Divers is probably going to have a pretty high cost point value. So at the very least, before Spider-Man's tournament's done, if you want to be on top of things, be at least maybe 50% or more before Spider Tournament's over. If you want to get the points done rapidly, though, Spider's the better side to lean into comparatively to the Dragons, just more speed efficiency-wise, right? But they both should be pretty fast depending on where your account's at. With that being said, we do have a Classic Arena takedown that's also going to happen here. I look at Classic Arenas as very, very easy to do. As long as you're maintaining activity daily within each refill, each reset, you should be able to do enough for basically enough arena to get what you got to get going. Take that at your own pace. Keep that in the back of your mind. But I think the big one that we have to watch out for during this first period, this first week of events and tournaments is going to be that champ training that's going to be happening roughly around the same time. So going into Friday, we're going to have champ training. This one looks like it's going to be a pretty hefty number one. I would be very careful with this one. Make sure you set some time aside for it. So maybe if you're going at a decent pace and you're already kind of like taking care of Spider Tournament just before you get into the Dragon, Dungeon Diver is looking like it's on track. Maybe take some time, do some champ training. If you can, like in the Dragon Tournament, for example, those that have solo build champions like Theodore, to name a few, maybe even Ishak, whoever you have, definitely take a moment and maybe consider using that period with the Dragon Tournament to get your points also within the Champ Training Tournament. The Champ Training event, excuse me. Now, the Summon Rush, I think we kind of hold the same rule of thumb. We do have a Champ Chase and a Summon Rush, but for Summon Rush, it's not what you get, it's what you use, so make sure your shards are pretty handy for you going into this one. I think the biggest thing is going to be making sure you don't overuse what you have. If you're close to Mercy on a couple shards, I don't believe there's going to be any big events that are currently tethered to this the Summer Rush. If there is, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. I'm okay with that. But, do just enough to get what you need, and then we keep it moving, right? Champion Chase, though, is what you get. So I would say saving your resources for, like, maybe if you're close to a Mercy on a particular set of shards, maybe that might be the time to pull, because then you get a big champion, one of high rarity. And then I give you a lot of points, and then you can kind of basically move on from the event as quickly as possible. So, with that being said, just make sure you're taking into consideration. Normally, they have them around like the 2,000s to 3,000s points, and then if they have like an extra champion or something around those lines, or an extra fragment set that you can get your hands on, you'd be able to like maybe spend a little bit more. This one seems like it's gonna be a little bit more relaxed since it's only one Summer Rush. They don't have any other like inclination about us having any type of additional fragments to acquire. In this particular area, most of it's going to be on the tournament side, so probably more towards the chase. So just get what you need, keep it moving. That's pretty much the long and short of it. Now, I did look at this calendar, and I did notice that we have not one, not two, but 3 artifact enhancement events. And this is where I would say that depending on where you're at in the game, Spider Tournament is going to have a lot of value for you on the front end. And what I mean by this is that Spider is one of the best places to get silver at. So if your silver coffers are looking a little bit low, I generally care a rule of thumb that per each artifact enhancement event, I want roughly around 15 mil. If I have 15 mil or more per artifact enhancement event, I'm okay. If not, I would need to squeeze in some time between those artifact enhancement events to make sure I acquire a little bit more silver, or basically just be prepared for it when it comes and arrives, right? So maybe do some gear cleansing, maybe take some time to, pre-prep some gear. If you have some pieces that are already like 15 but they're waiting to go to 16, maybe that'd be the time to like execute during those events to get some extra points really quickly for cheaper results. definitely start preparing for that. Keep that in the back of your head. So we do have 3 that's lining up. Be aware of that. Just make sure you have the silver for it, and we're going to keep it moving, okay? So there is a little bit of a grace period in between Tuesday to Wednesday. It looks like we pretty much resolved Dungeon Divers 1 and all the other ones, and we're coming to the conclusion of Dragon Tournament. Wednesday is when we lap over towards the end of Dragon Tournament into Ice Golem Tournament. This one, I would say you pretty much want to kind of do for the most part early on. There is, I believe, a very small, if not a minimal overlap between Dungeon Divers 2 and Ice Golem Tournament. If the timing doesn't align where it's not on there, you could just do Ice Golem, get out of the way, and then just prioritize setting up for Artifact Enhancement number 2 and or, in particular, the Champion Training Tournament. So we have 2 Champion Training-based events. I'm not sure exactly if my memory serves me correctly. One of the champion trainings, whether that's the event or the tournament, also gives you extra bonus points for booking and things of that sort. Just keep in mind if you have like CVC requirements, maybe I normally save my books for CVC. But if I find myself coming up short, if I find myself lacking in points and I need to get a quick burst and, one of those champion training events / tournaments gives you points for books, that might be a quick outlet to get yourself through it, safely. So just keep that in the back of your head while you're moving. But the big one that we're going to be looking forward to is going to be this Friday on November 3rd. We have a champion chase tournament, and that one in particular is going to be very interesting because if memory serves me correctly, not this Friday, which is going to be the October 27th, we have no 2X event because we just got done with the Void one with Siffy. This one, for Friday, November the 3rd, I believe we're going to have another 2X event. And memory serves me correctly, since we've been doing Ancients and they kind of flipped the script on us and did Voids. This one, I'm going to take a shot in the dark. I have no proof. I have no legitimacy, so take that with a grain of salt. I think it's going to be a sacred event, right? So with that being said, if you have a lot of sacred stocked up, Champion Chase is looking very, very lucrative for you. So double dip it to get some sacreds, get some stuff going for you, and really just get those points you need down. Now, remember I always say it's not, for Summon Rush, it's not what you get, it's what you use, like shards in particular. For Champion Chase, it doesn't matter what you use to get them, as long as you get the right champions, or the good champions. So getting epics and legendaries are very, very ideal. If you're saving under fragment champions, or those shards I was talking about before, this would be a great time to like maybe get your Mercy cooked in, or maybe pop that fragment champion that you were saving for a rainy day. This would be a good time to consider using it, depending on what your account needs are and where you're at in the game, okay? So with that being said, it's pretty much kind of like still you're cruising through this. Like I said, it's not really too clumped up. It looks like it's very spaced out. That means it might be a little bit higher of a point requirement. Like you see how Dungeon Divers is scaling over the course of multiple days. The longer days that they scale, I am already of the inclination that the point requirement is going to also be a little bit more expansive. So the more time, the more points. I go with that rule of thumb. I'll be happily surprised if it's not. But be prepared. Champion Training, Dungeon Divers, all those events that are currently like elongated on this list, on this calendar, expect to have to put a little bit more extra effort into it. So keep those point requirements in the back of your head while you're progressing, okay? Now, while we have that going on, we will have on Saturday a Fire Night tournament, which is going to coincide perfectly with a Dungeon Diver event number 2. This is probably going to be one of the more easier ones. All you have to do is just, I would hope by this point, if you have already done your Ice Golem and your champion training is progressing well enough, you should be able to devote most of your time straight into Fire Night tournament and just get that one along with your Dungeon Divers done, completed, right? If you are able to complete that and you're not fully finished with your champ training, or depending on how you look at the schedule, if your champ training is not done and you're doing maybe campaign farming, you do get a little points that does coincide with Dungeon Divers, because I believe Dungeon Divers accumulates points based on the type of artifacts you get. I think it's one of the ground requirements. So even if you're doing like campaign, I would still focus on getting that champ training done. That would be my first priority, even if the Dungeon Diver event and the Fire Night event is active, because you will have more time as the days go by to continue doing Fire Night tournament, whereas on like Saturday, Sunday, and then closer towards like the beginning of Monday, the champion training is going to be ending. So just make sure you're careful, make sure you get that done, do it as it's coming to you, and get it completed right here around this time frame. There's no need to hold back on, doing your champ training during this period. There's nothing that you benefit in terms of overlap too much. Now, if you are doing dragon tournament, or not dragon tournament, but like dragon farming with like food or whatever, for example, inside the Dungeon Diver while you're doing champ training, that's perfectly fine. All I'm saying is just make sure you're continuing to finish off champ training before you prioritize Fire Night. So like order priority based on the schedule that's coming up is probably the better way to look at it, right? Finally, we'll have on Sunday the Classic Arena takedown number 2. like the first one, this should be fairly easy, should be pretty quick. All you gotta do is just make sure you're maintaining activity. If you have extra refills and you want to get some, we got medals we got to get for the Great Hall. By all means, go ahead and get that taken care of. And of course, during that period, we're also gonna have Artifact Enhancement number 3. This will be a perfect time to take some of the pieces you got from some of the previous tournaments we've been working on through this fragment event, and maybe enchant them, get some better results, and plug and play them into your, basically into your teams. Whatever works for you. By this point, you should pretty much have the champion ready to go. I will double check, or I would recommend at the very least having your fragments done. If there is a time limit, and this is the best way I'll say it, if there's a time limit to when you can summon Timit the Fool, then I would be careful with that. I believe that most fragment champions, once you have the fragments, they're there with you forever. You could save this going into the next following CBC if you wanted to. If you have an immediate need for them, of course you could pull them at your own leisure. But for the most part, the main thing is, like, if you want to get more extra bang for your buck, always look at opportunities where you can get extra benefits behind summoning this champion. So maybe save these fragments for a rainy day, like that next CBC window where we might have a PR and you're gonna a personal rewards event, and you're gonna want to make sure that you get extra points. So summoning Timid during that period might be a little bit more lucrative for you. As always, do your due diligence, do what's best for your account. And if you guys are looking forward to this fusion, let me know in the comments below. I'm definitely interested. Also, if you're not going for it, please let me know in the comments as to why you're considering not. My rationale is this. Like I said before, I'm going to be doing this fusion just because, one, it's a great period to kind of get involved with things and kind of keep track of it. We're doing content. But at the same time, too, I look at this champion as an opportunity that in the event I get a duplicate version of him, I'll be able to provide extra value to my Bannerlord tribe because we'll be filling up faction cards. That's something that's a long-term project for me down the road. So, anyways, with that being said, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and always remember, stay ascended.